Sir, you need to leave, now. This is a private lobby, not a shelter. The man in the charcoal coat didn't turn around right away. He was looking at the building directory mounted on the marble wall, reading it slowly, the way a man reads something he already knows by heart. I asked you a question. Are you deaf? You can't be in here. He turned then, calm, hands at his sides. I'm here for a meeting on the 42nd floor. The property manager laughed. Short, sharp, ugly. Brenda Caldwell had run the front desk operation at Hargrove Tower for 9 years, and she knew exactly what belonged in her lobby and what didn't. A black man in a coat that looked too nice to be real, carrying a leather folio, standing on her marble floor at 7:40 in the morning. She knew. There's no meeting for you, honey. The 42nd floor is executive offices. Now you can walk out, or I call security and they walk you out. I'd prefer to wait by the elevator. You'd prefer. She turned to the guard stepping out from behind the desk. Marcus, get him out. He's loitering. The guard hesitated. He was 26, 3 weeks into the job, and something about the man's stillness made the back of his neck cold. But Brenda was staring at him, and Brenda signed off on his hours. Sir, Marcus said quietly, can I see some ID? The man reached into his coat, slowly, palms visible, everything by the book, the choreography every black man learns before he learns to drive, and produced a wallet. He held out a driver's license. Marcus looked at it. His face changed. Brenda snatched it from his hand before he could speak, glanced at it, and dropped it on the desk like it was counterfeit. Anybody can have a fake. I'm calling the police. She picked up the phone. He has no idea who he's looking at. Because the black man Brenda Caldwell just called the police on doesn't work in this building. He owns it. Every floor, every brick, including the chair she's sitting in. And in 38 minutes, every person in this lobby will understand exactly what just happened. They just don't know it yet. But this story doesn't start here. His name is Elijah Carter, 58 years old. He grew up 4 miles from where Hargrove Tower now stands, in a part of the city that didn't have buildings like this. In a house where his father, Samuel Carter, came home every night for 31 years smelling of the loading dock where he stacked freight for other men's companies. Samuel Carter never owned anything bigger than a used Buick. He used to drive his son past the downtown towers on Sunday afternoons and say the same thing every time. Men built those, Eli. Men no different from you. Samuel died at 63. He never saw his son buy his first commercial property. He never saw the second or the 10th. He certainly never saw the morning his son closed on a 44-story tower in the center of the city and quietly renamed nothing, kept every employee, and told no one in the building who the new owner was, because Elijah Carter had spent 30 years learning that the moment people know you own the room, they stop showing you who they really are. On the dresser in his home sits a single-framed photograph he looks at every morning. Samuel Carter in his good Sunday suit, standing in front of a building he would never be allowed to enter through the front door, smiling like he already knew his son would. Elijah had bought Hargrove Tower 11 weeks ago. This morning was the first time he'd walked through his own front entrance as its owner. He wasn't there to inspect anything. He had a 9 a.m. with his asset management team on 42. And he'd come early because he liked the quiet of a lobby before the day filled it. He was going to get a coffee from the cart on the corner first. That was the whole plan. Coffee. Then the meeting. He never got the coffee. Brenda Caldwell came to Hargrove Tower 9 years ago with a reputation. The kind of reputation that follows a person in whispers, but never in writing. 12 formal complaints in her file. A man asked to leave for loitering, who turned out to be a tenant's accountant. A woman followed to the elevator and questioned about which unit she actually belonged to. Each complaint reviewed. Each one closed. Brenda was efficient. The building ran clean under her. And the previous ownership decided that efficiency was worth more than the complaints of people who, in their view, would complain regardless. She was the product of 9 years of being told she was right. 9 years of no consequence. The system didn't fail to catch Brenda Caldwell. The system caught her 12 times and let her go 12 times. Marcus stood frozen by the desk, the license still warm where he'd held it. "Ma'am," he said. "Ma'am, I really think the name on the what?" "Marcus, if you want to keep this job, you'll do what I tell you." She had the phone to her ear. "Yes, hello. I have a man refusing to leave a private commercial lobby. He's becoming aggressive." Elijah had not moved. He stood with his folio under one arm, watching her describe a version of him that did not exist. And he did the thing he had taught himself to do 4 decades ago. He counted, not out loud. He counted the things being done to him, the way another man might count to 10 to keep from shouting. 1. Detained without cause. 2. ID dismissed without verification. 3. A false report of aggression to police. 35 minutes. His phone buzzed in his coat pocket. He didn't answer it. He knew who it was. On the 42nd floor, his asset management team had just received a calendar alert that the owner was in the building, and his chief operating officer, a woman named Diane Wu, 22 years in commercial real estate, who did not panic about anything, was already moving toward the elevator. Brenda hung up. "They're sending a car. You can explain your meeting to them." She crossed her arms and smiled, the smile of a person who has already won every argument she's ever had in this room. "You should sit down," Elijah said. It was not a threat. It was almost gentle. "This is going to be a difficult morning for you. Are you threatening me?" "No, ma'am. I'm telling you the truth. People rarely believe it the first time." A tenant came through the revolving door. A young woman with a laptop bag, a tenant from the 19th floor, and slowed when she saw the standoff. She pulled out her phone. She didn't say anything. She just started filming. A man in a suit walked past behind her, glanced at Elijah, glanced at Brenda, and gave Brenda the smallest approving nod before stepping into the elevator. A delivery courier hurried through the side, eyes down, wanting no part of whatever this was. 3 kinds of people. The one who documents, the one who approves, the one who disappears. Every lobby in America has all 3. 2 police officers arrived at 7:54. The first was older, Officer Dale Reyes, 15 years on the force, a man who had learned to read a room before he read a complaint. The second was younger and walked in already certain, the way the certain ones do. "All right," the younger one said. "Sir, step over here. Let's talk outside." "I'm happy to talk right here," Elijah said. "I haven't done anything that requires us to go outside." "She says you're refusing to leave." "I'm waiting for a 9 a.m. meeting in my building." The younger officer smirked. "Your building?" "Yes." Reyes, the older one, was looking at the license that still lay on the desk. He picked it up. He read the name. He read it again. He pulled out his phone, and he did the thing Brenda never did. He checked. 28 minutes. "Cuff him," the younger officer said. "We'll sort it at the station." "Hold on," Reyes said. "Dale, she filed a complaint." I said hold on. Across the lobby, the elevator opened, and Diane Wu walked out. Heels sharp on the marble, flanked by 2 members of the asset team and the building's head of security, the real head of security, the one Brenda answered to and had apparently forgotten existed. Diane took in the scene in one pass. Her boss standing calm, a license on the desk, 2 officers, a property manager with her arms crossed. "Mr. Carter," Diane said, "I'm so sorry. The directory must not have flagged you at the desk." The lobby went quiet in a way lobbies almost never do. Brenda's arms came uncrossed. "Mr. Who? No. No, this man does not." "Brenda," Diane said, "this is Elijah Carter. He is the principal owner of Carter Holdings. Carter Holdings acquired this property in April. He owns this building. He owns the company that issues your paycheck." The color drained from Brenda Caldwell's face. It didn't happen slowly. It happened all at once, the way it always does. The certainty going out of a person like air out of a tire. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. She looked at the license on the desk. She looked at the photograph of confidence she'd been performing for 9 minutes, and it was simply gone. "That's 11 minutes of detention," Elijah said quietly. He wasn't looking at her with anger. He was looking at her the way you look at weather. 11 minutes, a dismissed ID, a false report of aggression to 2 police officers. I counted. I always count. "I didn't. I was doing my job," Brenda said. Her voice had gone high and thin. "I was protecting the building." "From whom?" She had no answer. There had never been an answer. There was only a man in a nice coat at 7:40 in the morning, and what she'd decided that meant. The younger officer had taken a careful step backward. Officer Reyes set the license gently on the desk and said, to no one in particular, "There's no charge here. There was never a charge here." Elijah turned to him. "Thank you for checking. You'd be surprised how few people do." Then he turned to the young guard, Marcus, who was standing against the wall, looking like a man who wanted the floor to take him. "You looked at my ID," Elijah said. "You saw the name. You tried to say something." "Yes, sir. I should have said it louder." "Yes," Elijah said. "You should have. But you said it. Remember that you said it. The next part is learning to say it loud." Here is what happened over the following 72 hours, and none of it happened cheaply. By that afternoon, the tenant's video had been viewed 400,000 times. By the next morning, 2 million. The clip was 22 seconds long, and it required no narration. A woman calling the police on a calm man in a coat, and a COO saying the words, "He owns this building." The internet did the rest. Brenda Caldwell was placed on administrative leave by end of day Tuesday. By Thursday, Carter Holdings' HR division, at Elijah's direct instruction, had pulled her full file. The 12 prior complaints that the old ownership had reviewed and closed were no longer closed. Every one of them was reopened. 3 of the people named in those old complaints were contacted by the company and offered a formal apology and a meeting. 2 of them came. Brenda was terminated for cause the following week. Not for the viral video. Elijah was specific about this with his legal team. She was terminated for the 12 complaint pattern that the video had finally forced into the light. "The video isn't the reason," he told Diane. "The video is just the thing that made us look. I don't want her fired for being filmed. I want her fired for what she did to 11 people before there was a camera." The regional director who had reviewed and closed those 12 complaints over the years took early retirement that did not look entirely voluntary. The building's complaint review process was rebuilt from the ground up. Every closed, loitering, and identification complaint in the property's history was audited. Officer Dale Reyes received a letter, handwritten, from Elijah Carter, thanking him for the 30 seconds in which he chose to check a fact instead of a face. Reyes kept it in his locker. And Elijah Carter held a meeting, not in a press room, but in the lobby itself, 3 weeks later, with the building's full staff standing on the marble floor where it had happened. He didn't speak for long. "I want to say why I didn't tell her who I was," he said. "I could have. The second she challenged me, I could have ended it with one sentence. I chose not to. And people have asked me why." He let it sit. "Because the next person who walks into this lobby in a nice coat at 7:40 in the morning won't own the building. He'll just be a man getting a coffee before work. And he won't have a COO who comes down in the elevator to vouch for him. If the only people who get treated with dignity in this lobby are the ones who can prove they own the place, then this lobby is broken. And so is the company that runs it. I don't want a building where I have to announce myself to be safe in my own front door. I want a building where the man who can't announce himself is safe too. That's the only kind worth owning." He looked around the marble lobby his father had been welcome to admire only from the sidewalk. "My father drove me past buildings like this when I was a boy. He was never allowed through the front. I bought this one so that he would have been. The least I can do is make sure everyone is." He thanked them. He went up to his meeting, and the lobby went back to work. A little quieter than before, a little more careful, watching itself in a way it hadn't the day before. Marcus is still on the desk. He was promoted to shift lead 4 months later. He keeps a copy of the building's revised entry policy in his drawer, the one Elijah's team wrote, the one that opens with a single sentence. "Everyone who walks through this door is treated as though they belong until there is a specific, articulable reason to believe otherwise. And a nice coat is not a reason." Some evenings, Elijah stays late on the 42nd floor after everyone is gone. He stands at the window and looks down at the street where his father once parked a used Buick to point up at towers like this one. The building is his. The lobby is quiet. It is better than it was that Tuesday morning. It is not finished. "It's not fixed," he told Diane once, late, both of them tired. "One woman, one building? That's not the system." "No," Diane said. "But it's one front door." "Yeah." He kept looking down at the street. Someone has to keep watching the front door. If this story made you feel something, recognition, anger, or just the weight of how often it happens without a camera running, share it with someone who needs to be reminded that dignity shouldn't require a deed of ownership. Stories like Elijah's don't travel on their own. We carry them. And here's the question I want to leave you sitting with, because your answer matters more than any view count. Have you ever been judged in a room before you ever opened your mouth? And what did you wish, in that moment, the people around you had done? Tell me below. Tell me honestly. Because every story shared is one more front door someone decides to hold open.